Fashion Week is just something that is a fascinating phenomenon about like who funds Fashion Week. So grab your cup of tea because we're going to be spilling some tea on who's really bankrolling and sponsoring a lot of the fashion weeks that we see. We're going to be talking about the big four. I'm talking New York, London, Milan, and Paris. So let's get into it. Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Maria, the Maria Fade if you're new here. Today, we're going to be talking about who funds Fashion Week. Okay, we all love Fashion Week, but who started it? Who's funding it? And so I thought, let's sit down, let's look at it together. Who's funding Fashion Week? Who's behind all of the things that we see? Who's behind all of this fashion and work that we see? You know, let's see, let's find out, right? Who are some major sponsors behind all of the fashion weeks that we love? All four, major four that we'll be talking about today. And then which luxury brands actually play a role in the brands that we actually see displayed at Fashion Week? And do those two overlap? Fashion Week lasts just 1 week. Fashion designers get to display all of their collections for the upcoming whatever season it may be. So whether that's autumn, winter, spring, summer. So where does some of the Fashion Week take place? Like I said, there are the big four. There is Lagos Fashion Week, which I've seen some really cool stuff from. There is Copenhagen Fashion Week, which I also saw some stuff from. There is, in most capitals, I would say they probably have their own Fashion Week, but the main four are the ones that you see a lot of the designers show out for and go to, or a lot of your celebrities will come out to, and you will see them, make a splash in the news. There are actually 3 different types of Fashion Week. There's the haute couture, which is like handmade, tailored, dressmaking, theatrical pieces. There is the pret-a-porter. I'm not French, but pret-a-porter. Is that right? I don't know if I said that more French or British, but that's ready to wear, okay? And then there's menswear. Menswear is the one we just saw recently, which was going viral very quickly with the Louis Vuitton and everything. That was menswear Fashion Week. Paris is the only city that actually has haute couture Fashion Week. It started in Paris, like I said, it continues in Paris. So they're the ones that have haute couture. There are 2 seasons, like I mentioned earlier. There is the spring summer season, and then there's the fall winter season. So the haute couture week, which is in Paris, in France, that takes place twice a year, and that is one in January for the spring summer season, and then we have another one in the June July season. And then when it comes to the ready to wear, it's a little bit different. But this is the collections that you can find straight away in the boutiques. Like I said, a lot of the Louis Vuitton, in my opinion, Fashion Week for the menswear seemed very ready to wear to me. Yes, there were some interesting pieces, but it felt more like anyone can just put those clothes on and it would be ready to go. So, ready to wear. Menswear, which is recent, came about in 2012. So menswear is fairly new, but loving to see it nonetheless, right? Okay, Men's Week, that's the fall winter collection, and this is in January, and then again for the spring summer collection, which is in June. And we just saw, like I just mentioned, the January collection. Right. Ready to wear is a little bit different. It is in February and March, and it is for the fall and winter season. One that happens in September is for the spring summer. So think like they're previewing what's coming up, clearly. So the first ever Fashion Week was July 1943, and this was a New York Fashion Week, and it was to give fashion buyers alternative to the French fashion. So this was 1943, as you may know, this was World War II. At that time, Paris fashion was the epitome of the fashion scene. So this was the alternative. New York Fashion Week was the alternative to Paris. It's ironic because even though Paris was where fashion shows would happen, the first Fashion Week was actually in Paris in 1973. So very interesting that they were the ones actually leading the charge, but they only had shows and exhibits where you would go, sit down, order based off what you saw in the showroom, literally showroom. And then the actual Fashion Week, the concept was after World War II, obviously, in 1973. The purpose of Fashion Week itself, like, because we obviously have to discuss why even Fashion Week in the first place? Because like I mentioned and I touched upon fashion show, the fashion show idea translates to Fashion Week idea. It's just rather than one show, it's a whole week of shows. And you will see a lot of the, you know, come with me to the fashion weeks, this, that, and the other. And it's multiple shows in a day, some happening at the same time. But that's the nature of the beast. Influencers, celebrities, publicists, novelists, people in the fashion world get invited to these fashion weeks, of course, and have to either pick their slot or, if they have that liberty, or go to what slots they were approved for. Fashion Week marks the beginning of the two major fashion seasons, I would say. So once you see Fashion Week happening, fashion seasons are now gonna pop up. You're gonna see a lot of new trends, maybe in your favorite stores and all that type of stuff. It starts to trickle down. It might take a while to trickle down to some of the other stores, maybe fast fashion brands, this, that, and the other, but we'll start to see a lot of new trends or new things start to pop up around when Fashion Week starts. There are four kind of people who you see at fashion shows and fashion weeks in general. I've already touched upon it, but let me go into it. You're obviously going to see designers who are showing their collection, showcasing all their designs, you know, all their inspiration, the artistry, all of the cool things that we love to see. And then we also have the fashion journalists who are there, but I'm also, because typically, like I saw this LinkedIn article that mentioned, yeah, just fashion journalists. I do think there's a split for the fashion journalists now, because we now have fashion journalists for publications and things like that, but we also now have celebrities and we also have influencers in that same category. They're all there to spread the word to the masses. The same, you know, mainstream media, they're literally the ones spreading it to us. Yes, the fashion journalists and the influencers and celebrities do that. You know, they are the ones that will post on the stories, or fashion journalists will tell us what new trends to watch out for based off their research. And I'm not trying to diminish either or, but I do think they both are there to spread the word. And then obviously you have fashion buyers who are there for like the Saks and the Nordstroms and the, you know, super retailers that are, you know, the luxury retailers that typically get these clothing, like I said, show these things on their website, but, you know, to the public so that they can buy these things. Or, you know, obviously people who buy for celebrities or buy for, you know, not even celebrities, for politicians, this, that, and the other. But the people who actually buy the clothes, so it's like, that's the purpose. The designers are there to service everybody else and show their artistry. Everybody else is there to collect that knowledge and then spread the word even more. So I personally never been to a show myself. Here's to put it out to universe. I have watched a lot of fashion shows, okay? And they typically last between 10 to 20 minutes. You know, you could get a really big collection, whereas sometimes you don't get that much, or sometimes the pace is quick, or sometimes it's slower. So, or there's like a literal show before the show starts. So yeah, typically I would say about 10 to 20 minutes, you would see a show. You see anywhere from minimal amount of clothing, 20 to, I don't know, maybe 50, 60. I've seen some really big collections and they just walk fast or they pace it out. So it just depends on the collection, but typical timer just 10 to 20 minutes. So, and like I said earlier, right, you can't obviously just get a ticket to Fashion Week. Clearly, you get invited to Fashion Week. I mean, of course, you can always pitch to, like, you can always pitch to get it. We're listening to Janae Naylor recently talk about how she had her PR team reach out to some, you know, brands so that she could get invites. So yes, you can obviously reach out to brands to get invites, but you still have to get an invite to go to Fashion Week. So that's why I said it's still people who are in the know. So that's who you're gonna see there. You can't buy a ticket there. You either enter to win a ticket or to get an invite or try to get an invite or be famous or be known in what you do, and that's how you get an invite to Fashion Week. But yeah, you do see that a lot of celebrities, a lot of influencers get gifted to the shows that they're gonna go, or you know, it comes with the invite. That's part of it. That's the PR. That's the press. That's part of what it is. Brands know it works, so they do it continuously. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that's what PR is. I mean, I get PR stuff, and it's a lot of, sometimes they don't ask for anything in exchange. Sometimes they do ask for things in exchange. It's a gift. It's to you. It's to me. That's part of the game. question in this whole thing was, who is really truly funding New York Fashion Week? Okay, I love it. I think this year, as everybody's been saying, the fashion has been fashioning. It's really truly showing an exhibit of really interesting, intricate, artistic pieces on the runway. I think everything from, I know, yes, like even the Louis Vuitton show was a bit basic, but even then there were a lot of what I would say were ready to wear pieces from the Louis Vuitton show. But we've seen it all through the board, where we have like the Rocha show and everything just really being more of an art piece, more of a display, more of a show. And that's what we want to see in Fashion Week. We want to see a story being told. I mean, I don't know if you're like me, but I grew up watching America's Next Top Model. Toxic now that I look back at it. But at the time, okay, they would always want to go to New York Fashion Week because it was the epitome of fashion, at least obviously in the States, right? They obviously went to Paris Fashion Week. I think they did Milan as well, but New York was a big one that obviously a lot of models would want to be walking in. So even with Project Runway, right, it was always to display at New York Fashion Week. So the concept of New York Fashion Week in general has been, you know, this iconic thing that I feel like I grew up watching and like, wow, this has been nice. It's the epitome of fashion, but who's funding it? Of course, I would see like advertiser signs that said maybe, you know, Mercedes-Benz or whatever brand was obviously attached to it, but who started it? Who's funding it? And so let's move on to the big four. The big four fashion weeks are the ones that we know. New York Fashion Week happens twice a year. And I'm just gonna go and break down all of the fashion weeks. New York Fashion Week is twice a year. So New York Fashion Week this year is gonna be February 9, 2024 to February 14, 2024. And London Fashion Week is happening February 16, 2024 to February 20, 2024. Milan's Fashion Week is February 20, 2024 to February 26, 2024. Paris Fashion Week is February 26, 2024 to March 5, 2024. So I was wondering myself, so if most of the brands that we see at Fashion Week are from LVMH, for example, then it would make sense that we'll see a lot of brands from LVMH on the runway. So that's my question. My question is, are the same people who are backing or organizing or funding Fashion Week the same brands that we see at Fashion Week? Because that would be very interesting as to why we may not see some brands in the first place. Now, of course, I do know a lot of the major fashion houses back the New York Fashion Week. We've all known this. Like I said, we've all watched America's Next Top Model. We've all watched it. But the question is, who? Who are the ones who are funding the big four? This is how it happens. You are either the menswear, ready to wear, or haute couture associations. And then you obviously have the regulating body in France. You have the ones in London, Paris, Milan, New York, like we mentioned. There are different fashion firms or fashion companies or fashion houses, right, that we mentioned earlier. They are part of the associations. So in the associations, they say, okay, we're ready to show. We want to show for Fashion Week. We have a collection. Our fashion houses have been working. So obviously, you know, we've all heard of the Council of Fashion Designers of America. We've all seen the award show. We've seen all of like the super epic fashion celebrities or fashion icons getting maybe an award there. We've seen Zendaya go and get some awards and things like that. There's a couple of founding members. I'm not really going to go into all of them, but a couple of the founding members are fashion designers. So if they're a designer, I would imagine they probably showed at New York Fashion. Obviously, it is a nonprofit organization. That means that it is funded by people's donation. That's how typically nonprofits work. It's either grants, donations, things of that nature, private donors, the goodwill of others that funds the profit because they are not for profit. The whole idea was to literally, it's just like any other institution or any other council, which they try to obviously get you jobs, internship, things like that. That's what this was founded upon. How are the brands or the companies actually able to be shown? Like, how is the schedule chosen? Who, you know, gets to go first? Like, how? Because, you know, recently Gucci did not show for Fashion Week for what, like maybe 2 or 3 years, and recently started to show again. So you will have times where fashion designers would say, we are not ready. We don't want to do one this year. So typically that's how you get to see what happens at Fashion Week, when the designers and the fashion houses say we are ready to show. But what happens, right, is that typically a lot of the bigger shows get all the celebrities, the press, the journalists. Most people are vying to go to the big ones because, of course, they're the big names. So a lot of times the smaller designers don't get seen as much, don't get as much publicity, don't get as much press, because literally no one is really going to those shows unless there's a conflict in the scheduling. And of course, the bigger brands get the better schedules because they have more pull, they have more maybe collection. Like I said, probably just more pull. They do have more pull in the sense that they're able to show in a bigger space. They have more of a budget to actually put into the shows, into their space, into all of what they have to show, and more maybe even history to them sometimes, because some of the newer designers or the smaller designers are the newer ones. So they're not maybe necessarily the name there or the history of being at Fashion Week all the time. So that's why we see what we see typically, and that's what we see at Fashion Week. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, there is the controversy of, yes, there should be more of a push that these scheduling conflicts should not be happening with these smaller shows, right? Because why is it that the smaller guy is constantly getting wedged out? Why are they always being scheduled at the same time as these huge shows, when they could be put at a slot that is more manageable or more efficient to actually getting seen? There's like over 150 designers sometimes that show at these places in a week. So I just think sometimes that is the nature of the beast. Maybe if we had like 2 weeks of Fashion Week, right? The Fashion Weeks, it would be better. I do know that that is some critique that I've heard in the fashion world. So like I mentioned earlier, right? Remember I said the bigger designers have more money to be able to create a big show, to be able to actually promote, to invite the influencers out, all of that type of stuff, right? Because it costs money. Assistants cost money. Makeup artists cost money. The people actually making the clothes cost money. Every single thing down to the line costs money. It's estimated that it costs an average of $150,000 just to put on one show. So yes, like I said, the smaller labels might struggle to be able to show at Fashion Week. So I think that's where the discussion of maybe smaller labels need to bypass Fashion Week and go straight for the influencers or even celebrities. Literally just pitch the celebrities, pitch the influencers, because you're more likely to get your things seen by people anyway. $150,000 over even 5 influencers or 10 influencers goes a longer way, I think, than obviously trying to show at Fashion Week. But again, it just depends, right? Because it depends on what their return on investment, what they consider their return on investment. Let's say they consider their return on investment that they are now more known with the buyers, then maybe that is a better investment to make for the brand or for the label. Let's say that they think their return on investment is better for media impact and, actually people seeing their stuff, then again, maybe influencer route is better. So it depends on the label's idea of their return on investment. I'm not working for any label. I cannot say what their return on investment is, but if the return on investment is more credibility, maybe in the fashion space, of course, go with the journalist, Fashion Week, and all of that, spend that money. But if you want more exposure, of course, influencer, celebrity, easy, right? So I think that's really what you get for Fashion Week. A lot of Fashion Week we've seen has been evolving though, because, we have more plus size models, models of all abilities on the runway now, which I am obsessed with. We obviously we're seeing more darker skin, different races, people of color. It's just like more on the runway, but I'm not naive to say that most people in Fashion Week are white people, okay? It's still the, the status quo or whatever. So it's still what you will see a lot of, but I have definitely seen a jump in the past recent year. We've all seen models on the runway, closing runways, on the covers of magazine, because social media and technology and people on the computer and people in general want to see themselves reflected on the runway. And I think brands that really want to stay relevant are on top of that and trying to keep their models looking like their consumer. I still think that brands, in order for them to stay relevant, still try to preach this idea of an unattainable beauty. So, we still have these really, really skinny models still being most of them on the runway in fashion magazines and all of the things that we see, like Let's be real. That's what we see. But I do think that, you know, we are seeing a bit more changes. We are seeing something a little bit different for the shows. I remember, I think this was like in 2010 or 2008 or something, they banned very skinny models. Some models will literally starve themselves for New York Fashion Week and pass out, and some have even passed away for Fashion Week. So there've been some regulations that have come up regarding not even just obviously health and things like that, but also even trademarking of copying ideas, you know, like everyone saying, oh, Schiaparelli inspired Balmain and all this stuff, but there are been trademark protection and rights that have also come up to help with regulations of like people stealing things, because I believe it was Balmain that was saying that some of his collection got stolen. Fashion Week is just something that is a fascinating phenomenon. I cannot wait for the upcoming fashion weeks to come. I think I'm gonna do like a reaction video. Let me know if you want to see that. But all the big brands might be the ones showing out of Fashion Week, but they're still not making money like they thought they would be. But if you're interested in watching that analysis video, don't forget to check out this video. And until next time,